Welcome back to Rank and File Sports, where we are grading every single NFL draft class based on three categories. First of all, we're going to grade based off of whether or not the team drafted the players that fit their needs for next season, as well as the overall talent that they got, just assessing the draft class as a whole. And then finally, the value. Is each player worth where they were drafted at? Were they a steal at that position, or did the team maybe reach a little bit and not get as good a value as they could have if they had traded the pick? And then after that, we're going to go ahead and give them an overall grade. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video.
After a dramatic fall from grace, the 49ers look to fill and fix all of their needs in the draft, needing an offensive tackle, cornerback, edge rusher, defensive tackle, and a center. And with their first round pick, they took Michael Williams, a very talented edge rusher out of Georgia, the number three overall, considering Abdul Carter was the number one, and they got him right where he was projected to go. This is the best pick the 49ers make this entire draft class. He's going to be a day one starter. That is a nasty combo with Nick Bosa on the other side. This edge rushing duo is very scary for opposing offenses.
Yeah, that was a great pick, but their second one, not so much. Reached quite a bit by about a round's worth of talent in order to take Alfred Collins out of Texas. Again, adding to the D line, it addresses a need, but if you wanted Alfred Collins, you could have traded back a decent amount.
Yeah, or you could have taken Darius Alexander, who was still available at this time, considering he didn't go until the early third round, despite being a first round talent. So that's where some of our questions lie. Then in the third round, their first pick of the third round, they took Nick Martin, a linebacker from Oklahoma State. This was yet another heavy reach. He was the 185th overall ranked player, the 14th linebacker. I just don't know why they're reaching on a position that they don't really need, especially considering you have Fred Warner still, who's the best linebacker in the entire NFL. And you're reaching on a guy who you easily could have gotten later on in the fourth round or even after that. So I just have so many questions for this pick, and those questions aren't going to stop later on.
Yeah, next one, Upton Stout. This one, not one of their worst picks. It's not a super bad reach, probably by about half a round or so. They took Upton Stout out of Western Kentucky. He's a bit undersized, so it's a little bit interesting. And also, it is the fourth of five picks to start the draft that are all defensive picks.
Granted, their defense has dealt with a lot of injuries, and they've been trying to plug those holes with free agency pickups that haven't panned out. So I don't blame them for drafting all defense with those first four picks, but some of these were pretty hefty reaches. And taking CJ West at the start of the fourth round, not a terrible pick, not a big reach either. Definitely a better value pick than taking Alfred Collins in the early second round. Definitely has a lot of potential, but once again, considering that they could have addressed the D tackle need earlier on and got someone that they could have just locked in, this pick could have been used to address other needs later rather than getting another defensive tackle to like get a two player to fill one need kind of thing. So overall, just kind of an okay pick for the 49ers here.
Yeah, and then speaking of reaches, like we have been the whole time, they went ahead and took a late sixth round talent in Jordan Watkins, grabbing him in the fourth round. And I mean, he's again pretty undersized. He's speedy, which is nice, but I don't know. This again, you could have waited to get him, and also there were definitely better wide receivers available at this point.
Yeah, they definitely could have got someone that was ranked a little bit higher, or they just could have taken a wide receiver earlier if they really needed one. But after that, they finally have a pick that was valuable, and they took Jordan James out of Oregon, a running back. While that doesn't meet a need that is kind of a safe draft pick considering Christian McCaffrey has dealt with injuries basically his entire career. And we saw Bucky Irving after last season, after he stepped into Rashad White's role after he dealt with some injuries, and he's likely going to be RB1 in Tampa Bay. So Jordan James could very much fill that role too if they needed him, if Christian McCaffrey goes down with an injury, but hopefully Christian McCaffrey stays healthy. But considering he was a third round talent and they got him at the beginning of the fifth round. Just an incredibly valuable pick and getting another offensive weapon for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is about the fifth round, but Marquez Siegel, also a really solid pick, right around where he was supposed to be drafted. He's a really good safety. Doesn't necessarily address a team need, but it never hurts to add some depth to the secondary. And I think he is going to be a really solid player for San Francisco. So this one actually was a pretty good pickup.
Especially considering I forget what his name is, and even if I remembered it, it's some name that I can't pronounce. But I know one of their safeties who was dealing with an injury last year had a little bit of a setback and is expected to miss the first couple of weeks. So this might actually be pretty beneficial for them. But then we go back to some more questionable picks, taking Curtis Rourke at the middle of the seventh round. Well, not terrible, especially considering Curtis Rourke had a very solid season this year for Indiana, leading them to their college football playoff appearance. I just don't really understand it considering they still have Brock Purdy, who's pretty young, and they also signed Mac Jones in free agency this year. Granted, Mac Jones is not a long-term solution if you're, for whatever reason, going to move on from Brock Purdy, but he's going to be a solid backup. But once again, considering they had other team needs that they needed to address, I don't know why you're taking a quarterback in the early middle of the seventh round. So once again, just kind of a puzzling pick.
Yeah, and then going with Connor Colby towards the end of the seventh round. They did draft a guard, which wasn't a team need, and he was a 4-year starter, which is really the only potential bonus here. He has played a little bit of tackle in college, so maybe they're thinking they can try and move him back to the outside. But I don't know. This one again, really, really big reach. He wasn't expected to be drafted, so not necessarily a great pick.
Speaking of not expecting to be drafted, we have their final pick, that being Junior Burgeon, a wide receiver from Montana. You're probably a little bit happy considering you're from Montana, but there is no information about this guy on ESPN. The only thing I can really find was that he was originally a running back in 2021 and then made a transition to wide receiver, and that's about it. So this is probably just going to be a offensive utility guy, someone they're going to use on special teams. But once again, there were still better options. There's a lot of wide receivers that went undrafted that they could have taken. If you didn't want to take Isaiah Bond, considering he's having a little bit of legal issues, I get that. But you had Brew McCoy available, who's I think like 6'1", 6'2", and just a bigger body wide receiver. Like that, I feel like would have been a better pick than picking Junior Burgeon. But congrats to him, considering he probably wasn't thinking he was going to get drafted.
Yeah, definitely gonna make the team as a special teams guy if he ends up making it. Taking a look at their grades though, as far as team needs, they're only gonna get a C plus. I mean, you had 11 picks and you only filled 3 of your 5 team needs. Definitely made some mistakes there. They got a little bit of credit because they took 3 of those team needs with 3 of their first 4 picks. So that helps it out a little bit from being worse, but still C plus, really the best they can do with only taking 3 of the 5. Talent wise, they're going to get a C. Michael Williams, extremely talented guy. Alfred Collins, he's like a third round talent. They reached a decent amount. I think Jordan James is good. Marquez Siegel's good. Other than that, I mean, these are all just kind of average college players who are probably going to turn out to be depth guys, or I really don't know. There were just so many better picks that the 49ers could have gone with. And speaking of which, that influences their value grade. The 49ers reached a ton. They're getting a D plus for value. Just So many different things that they could have done that would have made this a much better, constantly reaching for every pick. Overall, this is going to be a C draft class from the 49ers.
Yeah, I think you sent something to me that ESPN ranked this as one of the best draft classes, maybe even giving it an A. I don't know how they came to that conclusion. Maybe they know something we don't about their second and third round picks. Maybe Alfred Collins is a lot better than we think, but I still think considering Darius Alexander was there, that was the for sure pick they should have made, but to each their own, I guess. If they see something in these guys, then they can go ahead and draft them. That's the one thing. We don't know what's going on in those draft rooms, but from the outside looking in, there were so many better picks that the 49ers could have made. They, like Jonah said, reached basically every single pick outside of their first round pick and their two fifth round picks. So, really, at the end of the day, in our eyes, this is one of the worst drafts.
Yeah, I think the main thing that ESPN's missing is I really think that they're trying to say that because they had 11 picks, that this ended up being a good draft class, but quantity isn't everything. With 11 picks, you should have gotten more quality in this draft class.
Yeah, without a doubt, especially with some of the other needs they have, considering they've been trying for years to plug those needs with free agency picks that don't work out. So it'll be interesting to see how the 49ers figure it out going into next season after that disappointing season last year. So we'll see what happens. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more of our grade videos or any of our other videos. And we will see you in the next one.